Just let the meeting start and then we will start as well. Sorry, rather it's the recording start. Waki, if you have any questions, you can just raise your hands. Okay, so the meeting has started. I hope all of you can see my screen. There is this topic that I just quickly wanted to discuss with you people, moreover on Teams, because here visuals are much easier to share. So it is all about flyers, brochures, and newsletters. Now, first of all, if we talk about flyers, what are flyers? You people must have seen the one-page document. Document तो नहीं कहेंगे इसको, one-page pamphlet that most of the times is distributed. Most of the time it is used for the sake of advertisement, or it is used for the sake of spreading some information or spreading awareness. Okay, you might have noticed. Not in COVID, because in COVID, you see, since this was an epidemic, and definitely an epidemic was spreading, particularly through contact. So we have moved towards more of a paperless environment, okay, particularly during the COVID days. But other than that, if some of you people will drive or but definitely all of us have been on roads, so you must have realized that whenever particularly traffic police, they are doing some kind of awareness for drivers. Mostly they distribute these one-page pamphlet जिनको हम कहते हैं pamphlet आया generically, colloquial style में. तो वो जो एक सफ़े का pamphlet है जिसको that is termed as a flyer. ठीक हो गया? Now, when we talk about flyers obviously, since this is a one page, okay, with less text and usually some images or some visuals, that is something that is obviously cost effective, okay. The size of a flyer is different. Mostly it is 2 pages back to back, they are printed. It's not mostly, sorry, rather much less commonly both sides of a page they are printed, okay. And most of the time only one side is printed, okay. Maybe it is some kind of advertisement for a cafe, maybe it is some kind of awareness scheme by traffic police. Or if you remember previously, when you people were really small, there were these huge dengue breakouts back then, and Punjab government, they used to distribute these pamphlets particularly on how to prevent और ऑन प्रिवेंटिव मेजर्स फ्रॉम डेंगी. उस एक पैम्फलेट के ऊपर या उस एक फ्लायर जिसको कहेंगे, फ्लायर के ऊपर जो है वो 3 4 5 किस्म के जो है वो इमेजेस बने होते थे. फॉर एग्जांपल अगर टायर्स पड़े हैं तो उनके ऊपर क्रॉस है, पानी कहीं खड़ा हुआ है किसी बर्तन में तो उसके ऊपर क्रॉस है, इस तरह करके मतलब बेसिकली दे यूज्ड टू टेल via those 3 to 4 or 5 small images and via 2 to 3 techniques, जैसे शाम में लंबे बाजू वाले कपड़े पहने, बाहर सुबह और शाम के वक्त बाहर निकलने से इज्तनाब करें, थिंग्स लाइक दैट, ठीक है. सो द साइज इज these days it is mostly A4 paper size, ठीक है. Or flyers can be printed on small sized papers as well, depending upon obviously who is designing the flyer. Then as for topics are concerned, well, obviously due to the size of a flyer, usually one flyer focuses on only one theme or one topic at a time. For example, if basically someone is designing a flyer for the sake of advertisement, most of the time that flyer will focus on maybe something like sale only, okay. Or let's suppose if traffic police is distributing some kind of flyers, then just a second, who are these people who are waiting in the lobby? Umar Hanif. Is Umar Hanif from our class? Text me if any CR is here, then I will let him in. Otherwise, generically, you people are allowed to get in the meeting without waiting in lobby. Okay, getting back to the lecture. So topics, usually it is a single topic, okay? Or as I was saying, that most of the times you might have seen, if you have seen any flyers by traffic police, most of the times they are either there on wearing a seat belt, or and how it can basically save your life, or sometimes they are only there to follow traffic lights, okay, signal, okay, how that's something that can actually help you avoid accidents or so on and so forth. Well then, audience. As for audience are concerned, if you remember when we discussed this whole idea of technical writing, the fourth trait was, I guess, audience recognition in the very beginning of our this very course. At that time, I guess I did tell you that there are 3 types of audience: high-tech audience, low-tech audience, and then we have this layman audience. Well, obviously, audience depends upon the topic of the flyer, then distribution, okay. Sometimes, let's suppose if traffic police is distributing some kind of audience, okay, so most probably audience, in the most of the cases, that are going to be drivers. Now when we say drivers, drivers can be high tech, they can be low tech, they can be layman. Okay, so obviously while designing the flyer we will keep that thing in mind, which means that most of the times we are going to add visuals, okay, that our majority can understand, even people who can't read, semi-literate people, they are also able to understand it. Then comes the cost. Well, obviously flyers are least expensive because you see there is simply this one page. So the cost of the paper is not going to be much. Then obviously the expertise that are required to design the flyer, they are not much. Not much expertise is required. So that will be okay as well. Uh, After this, then moving on towards technology again, flyers can be produced by using standard word processing tools. Not much high tech level is needed. Then comes longevity. Longevity, long life, or generically we term it as shelf life. Well, as for the shelf life of a flyer, the shelf life is basically that for how long or for how much duration a particular flyer stays relevant. Okay? Shelf life is of a document basically means that for till how much or till or how long for how long for how long a particular document will remain valid or will be actually used or will be consulted. Okay? वेल लॉन्जेविटी उसका वैसे लव या शेल्फ लाइफ भी हम उसको कह सकते हैं obviously due to there's only one theme or one topic at a time that a flyer covers and only one page is there and even on that page there is very less text and there are much more visuals ठीक है or tables or charts something so shelf life of a flyer is not much it is really मतलब short life most of the times it can be few hours if you have distributed the flyers, let's suppose if you are doing some kind of awareness seminar at your university and you have distributed the flyers, people have seen the flyers and then they just throw them away. So maybe the shelf life is hardly 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 2 or 3 hours, or maximum one day. Not more than that. Now I'm going to show you some flyers as a sample. Obviously, you are supposed to keep the flyers short. As you are supposed to focus on one idea or theme or topic per flyer. Since the space is really less, you are supposed to identify the theme. You should be knowing that what kind of theme it is or what kind of topic it is that you are designing your flyer on. Then you are supposed to limit your text. Generically, we say that in one flyer there should not be more than 50 words. Okay? Because you see we have only one page and the more visual a flyer is, the more better it is. Okay? And obviously we do increase the font size depending upon the situation, obviously to make our flyer look much more and more accessible. ठीक है, graphics use करेंगे हम. Just go through this sample flyer and I hope things will become much more clear. Now here we have this having trouble balancing your user support needs. Okay, this is a highlighting theme now. This and definitely how are they highlighting it? They are highlighting it by a question. Then they have here graphics for readers' interest now through the graphic. Okay, they are showing the services that they are offering to meet their clients' need. For example, they have this इंटरनेट कंटेंट हेल्प डेस्क ऑनलाइन हेल्प ट्रेनिंग मटेरियल है उसमें देखिए ये जो बार्स हैं ये ऊपर नीचे भी हैं ठीक है टू शो मे बी that the services that they are being offered if they are much available or less available or much productive or less productive. Then obviously each flyer has a phrase. For example, we have this we can help or most of the in most of the companies or most of the brands they have these phrases. For example, generically, let's suppose if I ask you to design a flyer for McDonald's, so the generic phrase, what is it? It is, I guess, I am loving it, or something like this, or you फोन की एक बड़ी टिपिकल सी है तुम ही तो or something, but there's this catchphrase, ठीक है, that mostly firms or companies have, and that is that catchphrase you are supposed to place here on your flyer, or maybe you can think of some other witty thing or some phrase or some appealing phrase, ठीक है. Then we have corporate logo or the logo of the company or organization, and then we have contact name and number. Contact name, obviously person to whom can be contacted. There can be some universal number here as well, or these or sometimes it is not but particularly these days it is not necessary to provide a phone number. Most times it is मतलब या आजकल खैर ये WhatsApp web is becoming really common, or maybe you can simply provide an email ID and website and then this kind of cliched line, a typical say line, we are here for you. ठीक है. So this is the sample flyer. Then after flyer, the second thing that I am supposed to discuss with you people today is brochure. Now, basically, a flyer, you see, if we talk about a flyer is really short, एक pages या बहुत होगा तो back to back printing हो जाएगी, उसकी 2 pages हो जाएंगी. So definitely we can't provide any much detailed information when it comes to a flyer, ठीक है? And if we are looking for something that is a bit more detailed as compared to a flyer, then obviously we are going to move towards a brochure. Now you might have seen these brochures mostly in this time and place where we are living. Mostly it is banks that are giving out or handing out brochures अभी तक. और sometimes if or when you attend these ये job expos पे अगर आपको कभी जाने का हो, educational expos तो खैर mostly होते ही हैं, अगर कभी आपको उन पे जाने का हुआ हो तो most of the times particularly pre-COVID मतलब post COVID I haven't been to any expos, so mostly they hand you out these brochures, ठीक हो गया. और if you went go for tourism abroad, पाकिस्तान में कोई concept नहीं है इसका, तो वहाँ पे वो आपको hand out करते हैं brochures जो आपको guide करते हैं कि maybe what is it that you should be looking और मतलब citing at this particular new city or city, usually country तो नहीं होता, ठीक है. Now brochures, definitely there are different purposes that brochures can basically perform. They do create awareness, ठीक हो गया. They increase understanding of a product or service, ठीक है. They advertise new concepts. If you are introducing any, let's suppose if I ask you to draw a brochure for your department, electrical engineering department, so then that particular brochure, it should be creating awareness, take care, or rather it should be providing information about your department, that is electrical engineering department. It should be increasing the understanding that what kind of degrees or programs or diplomas or courses are being offered at electrical engineering department, ठीक है. What is it that electrical engineering department has been achieving, ठीक है, academically या in via its linkages with industry, etc. Maybe if there are some negative notions about the department that can be क्या से कहते हैं eradicated और मतलब they can be addressed through a brochure, ठीक हो गया. And obviously the better a brochure is designed when an outcomer, ठीक है, or someone outside your organization, let's suppose he or she is seeing 2 to 3 brochures for maybe electrical engineering department UT Texla, electrical engineering department UT Lahore, and maybe electrical engineering department NUST, ठीक है. So maybe through your brochure you can present your department in a much better way as compared to these other universities, ठीक है, या departments. Now, while talking about brochure is usually they are folded, ठीक है. So and if you can hear see, or if you hear see on my screens, we have the 6 panel brochure and we have this 4 panel brochure as well, ठीक है. The after folding, the panel that comes at the front, we term it as a front panel, और जो पीछे आता है उसको हम कहते हैं ये बैक पैनल है, ठीक हो गया. लेकिन after folding it, ठीक है, that is how we tell what is front and what is back. Then obviously when it comes to a brochure, again first of all as for the size is concerned, size of a brochure is definitely it is bigger than that of a flyer, since the size of the page on which a brochure is printed, definitely it is bigger because you see we have to fold it further. So obviously a bigger sized page is picked, ठीक है, are made customized. Then as our topics are concerned, well, we generically we discuss 5 to 10 topics in a brochure as compared to a flyer. In a flyer we said that we are going to focus on only one topic or one idea or one theme at a time, but when it comes to a brochure, obviously we can cover at least minimum 5 and maximum 10 topics, ठीक हो गया. For example, again, if I continue with my previous example, and if you design a brochure for your department, electrical engineering, maybe your first topic can be the introduction of the department. Then you can talk about the facilities that are available at the department. Then thirdly, maybe you can talk about degrees or programs that are being offered at the department. ठीक है. Then maybe fourthly you can talk about industry academia linkages of the department, ठीक हो गया. Then fifthly maybe you can talk about student facilities being provided at the department, ठीक हो गया. इसी तरह फिर इसी तरह you can talk about post graduate studies being done at the department, you can talk about research being done at the department, ठीक हो गया. So a brochure generically has from the minimum 5 topics and maximum 10 topics. You see the reason why we have increased topics rather is because obviously we have now we have more space, ठीक है. And previously when I told you that as far when we design a flyer, generically we do not write more than 50 words, ठीक है. When I say word, you see अभी यहाँ पे पढ़ती हूँ या बिल्कुल start में comparing flyers, brochures and newsletters, तो ये 1 2 3 ये 5 words हैं, ठीक है. Kindly do not get confused between words and alphabets. Okay. Then moving on towards audience. Audience that you have again. Same idea is there, that we can't be actually purely pinpoint specific that who our audience will be. ठीक हो गया. But one thing that we do know is that most of the times audience are people. Just a second, is there like some message on my Teams? And there is not. Created me. पता नहीं Hamad is telling or asking, I don't know. Okay. Just a second. Okay. So, multiple topics. Sorry. As for audience are concerned, audience basically, obviously, they can be high tech, they can be low tech audience. Sometimes layman audience can be there as well. But most of the times, one thing that we do know for sure is that most of the times our audience are people who are outside than our own organization or our own company or our own institute, who are going through our brochure, because obviously someone who does not know will be going through a brochure. Okay. Well, then comes cost. Cost, obviously a brochure is more expensive as compared to a flyer, because you see the page is of a bigger size, then obviously pages of a bigger quality. Okay. Then obviously you need much better technical expertise to design a brochure. ठीक हो गया, as compared to a flyer. And definitely you need a proper printing press to print your brochures, as compared to a flyer that can simply be photocopied as well, or that can be simply printed on your own as well. uh, then comes to longevity. Well, longevity, or जिसको shelf life, shelf life of brochures is obviously much better as compared to flyers. Well, you see, because of the cost, that we do put in for brochures, definitely it is much more than definitely the effort that we do take to design the flyers. And since it is covering multiple topics, so shelf life is much better. Most of the sometimes it is a year or so as well, but generically we say that 6 months is the shelf life, at least 3 to 6 months at least is the shelf life for a brochure. Whereas in the case of flyer, you remember we discussed that, if you remember, we just discussed a while ago that the shelf life of a flyer is really short. Then the third thing is going to be a newsletter. A newsletter is basically, again, first let me try to show a newsletter, you people here, and then I guess we shall be moving on. Okay, here if you can see a newsletter. A newsletter is basically this document, 10 to 15 or sometimes up to 20 pages, a kind of booklet kind of thing. But it is not a booklet, because booklet is of a smaller size, where the page size of a newsletter is usually मतलब A4 पेज से भी थोड़ा सा बड़ा ही होता है. ठीक है. This is basically published by an institute or a company, or an organization, usually after every 6 months, or sometimes after every 3 or 4 months, or sometimes yearly. And it basically gives an overall impression, or rather an overall view of the particular institute or organization or company that publishes the newsletter. Okay. If you people ever had the chance of going to library, which you all do, but if you people ever had the chance of actually consulting the books there, because that is the actual purpose of library, you will see these sample newsletters that our university published, rather used to publish long ago. अब काफ़ी सालों से जो है publish हम नहीं कर रहे मेरा ख्याल है. I don't know if we have opted for e-newsletter, but I don't think so that we have. Anyways, so basically this is what a newsletter is supposed to do. A newsletter basically provides, usually there are a lot of pictures, okay, particularly on the front page, just like this sample here that we have, okay, and there are a few highlights present on the front page. Then let's suppose if we talk about a newsletter of a university, there everything and anything that has happened within the last 6 months. For example, if there have been any new recruitments, if there have been any new achievements by our students within the particular duration for which we are writing the newsletter, if there have been any events that have been conducted, any kind of sports event, literary events, क्या उसे कहेंगे, any scholarly activity, etc., any conferences, if they have been to any conferences have been conducted, etc., so on. All these things basically they are they are basically presented or illustrated through a newsletter. Now, obviously, since the word limit of a newsletter, the page limit is generically here, the author of this book that I am sharing with you notes, he says that it is 10 to 12 pages, but I have seen some newsletters that are there for 15 pages or sometimes 20 pages. And when I say 20 pages, it means back to back printing. ठीक हो गया? I have been trying to find one or two newsletters as samples, but I have been unable to find till now. I had some scanned copies, but I don't know where have I lost them. So basically, this is the purpose of a newsletter, to provide a detailed overview, okay, of an institute or or a company or department. As for the salient features of a newsletter is concerned, again, first of all, when we talk about the page limit, newsletters basically, obviously, they are anywhere from 1 to 20 pages or 15 to 20 pages. This is how you can remember it. And then obviously, as far the topics are concerned, multiple topics, there is no limit on how many topics a newsletter actually can cover. कोई limitation नहीं है. Then moving on towards audience. Audience की अगर हम बात करें तो again we are not much sure, but mostly either high tech audience will be there or low tech audience will be there. layman का यहाँ पे कितना खास काम नहीं होगा. Being audience, they can see photos, but definitely mostly they won't be actually interested in reading it. Generically, as a nation, we are not interested in reading anything anymore. This whole interest in reading thing, this is declining very fast, but anyways. Then moving on towards cost, obviously flyers are really expensive due to their size and the number of pages that are being used and the quality of pages. Then obviously we do add these graphics, etc. And definitely we design them via proper software. We can't just make them, okay, on Word. Then obviously better technology or expertise, और बेसिकली टेक्नोलॉजी तो खैर नहीं, किताब थोड़ी सी पुरानी टेक्नोलॉजी तो हम नहीं कह सकते, लेकिन बेटर जो है वो सॉफ्टवेयर और प्रोसेसिंग टेक्निक्स आर रिक्वायर्ड इफ और व्हेन यू आर डिजाइनिंग अ न्यूज़लेटर. ठीक हो गया? Then comes the longevity. As for now here, if you see here, this particular author says newsletters are generally published on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis. I haven't seen, I would disagree here. I haven't seen any newsletter that is being published weekly, no, monthly, no, quarterly. Yes, some firms do publish a newsletter quarterly, but most of the times it is twice a year. ठीक है, मतलब as for our university or most of the universities or most of the institutes go, they publish one newsletter in June. ठीक है, that basically क्या उसे कहेंगे, it provides details, or it provides a detailed glimpse over all the happenings that have been done in the past 6 months. ठीक है. For example, if we publish a newsletter now in June 2022, it will be covering the area from January 2022 till June 2022, and then other one we will be writing at in December. ठीक हो गया? Or again, it will be covering the detailed information starting from July 2022 till December 2022. ठीक है? So this is the duration for a newsletter. I guess yes, this is what that I. So longevity is, definitely since it is costly, so longevity is much more. At least 6 months तो सी होती है. Or some institutes or some companies do publish a newsletter after a year or so as well, depending upon their choice. Obviously, what else can be the word? So this is a topic that I wanted to discuss with you people. Now I'm going to allow you people to unmute yourselves. So if you have any questions, you can ask, and I'm going to stop the recording because people who have not attended the lecture, they can just go through it quickly. It is, I guess, hardly 20 minutes. Okay?